It really is all about time. Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's edition of NoteSchool TV, where every week we bring you an amazing guest, and this week is no different. We have a gentleman on here that, well, he has a great story. So we'll bring him on in just a couple of minutes. But before we do, just want to ask a couple of things of you. Number one, I'd love for you to like what you see here, and that helps us out as far as to know what that we're bringing you the kind of content that you really want to hear. Subscribe so that you'll be right plugged in there to our NoteSchool TV channel. And then finally, hit the bell notification, right? That's right. Go ahead, do it right now. Hit that bell notification so that you will know, have advance warning every week before we go live. When? At 11:05 Central Time every Wednesday. Couple more things, guys. I know that you're going to, if you've got questions, comments, we love to hear from you folks. So please keep those coming in. And if you'd like more information about what we do at NoteSchool, certainly we would love to have you, provide you with that. Love to have you come to one of our one-day classes that we put on. Just simply go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. So we're going to do what we do every week at this time, and here is the news. Well, again, it's all about interest rates, right? And I pulled up this first article here. Well, I pulled it up last night. You can see that, these are the rates, fresh off the board from yesterday. And, here it is right here. And mortgage rates continue bobbing below their highest level since 2009. So here you go. You got 30-year fixed rates are around 5.48, 5.71 on the Re-fis. And guys, it's, the Re-fis are, they're pretty much drying up at this point as the rates are going up. Here's your FHA 30-year fixed at 5.43. Jumbo, right? Jumbos are down are a little less than 5%. And isn't that interesting that your 15-year fixed is just a couple of basis points above your 30-year your 30-year fixed jumbo. So also, guess what's making an appearance, and why is that making a new appearance? Is the 5-1 ARM, right? Lower rate for the first 5 years, then it adjusts up, and so that's going to be a little bit lower than the others. So where are they going? Well, only the shadow knows. So what we have as well is this. We show you this every month, and we're going to talk a whole lot more about this next week when we have our monthly update. By the way, one of your favorite, everyone's favorite shows of the series. So this is as of the end of April, and the Mortgage Bankers Association puts this out, the MBA, and credit availability dips for the second consecutive month. So it was up around 125.6 in January. It was stayed about the same in February. And then in March, it dropped a couple of points. And look, today it's at 121.1. Or as of the end of last month, which is the latest data that we have through Black Knight and the Mortgage Bankers Association. Understand, guys, what this means is it, again, is getting more difficult to get a loan, right? And why? Well, as interest rates continue to go up, prices are still up, and it is stretching the borrower's dollar as far as being able to qualify for a 5.5% loan, right? Payments go up when the interest rate goes up and the property values are going up. So we'll see where that goes, and we'll certainly have a whole lot more info. Yep, I'm pegging our monthly update for next week. So, guys, that is the news as we see it today in the world that we live in. Good news is this is good news for an opportunity for folks that are in the mortgage space, right? When rates were 2.75%, last year, and now we're at where we are today. As mortgage rates go up, as credit availability continues to shrink, it just makes creative financing, right? It makes creative seller financing more and more of a thing, right? All right. So, as I promised, we have an amazing guest this week. He has a really cool story, a really cool guy. Let's bring on Mr. Patrick Truchan. Hey, brother.
Hey, Joe. How we doing?
I'm doing well. I was always saying Truchan, right? And it's really Truchan, right?
Like, keep on.
Keep on trucking, baby.
You got it.
Yeah, like the eastbounder down, right?
Right. I actually drove a truck for a little while when I was in college, just for fun.
Yeah, right. There you go. So, Patrick, you have an amazing story, and you've done some pretty impressive things, and you've met some pretty impressive people.
Yeah.
And you know what, Patrick? It is not bragging when it's true, right? And all of these experiences that you've had, it's brought you to where you are today. So, and what I said in the opening was it's all about time, and those were your words, and we'll talk about those a little bit later in the show. So, go ahead and let's talk about where you kind of where you started out, what you were doing, kind of before you decided to kind of go out on your own.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. So right now I'm a corporate refugee. I'm out of that kind of side of the world now. But prior to becoming a refugee, I was an executive who worked in the hospitality industry, hospitality and golf, kind of back and forth depending on where I was in my career. Right. But I think what you're referencing most that most people like to hear the stories about when I can tell them is my time at Sunnylands, which is a very special place in Southern California. I was very fortunate to be a part of the team that transitioned what was the historic home of some billionaires from the last half of the last century into what is known today as one of the premier retreat centers in the world. So at the end, I saw it all the way from construction to developing teams and departments and processes, all the way through actually executing and bringing in, the president of the United States, the senators, kings, queens, CEOs, visionaries, and luminaries to work on some of the toughest problems that are facing the world today. It was really an amazing experience and brought me way closer to these individuals than I ever thought I would be in my time growing up in the sleepy town in Michigan that I called home growing up. So it was special, and I spent 11 years doing it. It really was amazing. But I think one of the biggest challenges for me was I had that Midwestern work ethic where the job's never done, and you just keep going, and those long days turned into long weeks, into long months, into long years, and pretty soon more than a decade had gone by, and all of a sudden my kids are hardly recognizing their dad. Right. So my wife and I made the choice that Southern California was only a place for me to work. It wasn't where we wanted to call home. So we were, Sunnylands is in the desert. We're actually more like water people, and we like those kind of outdoor activities. So we picked up the family and headed cross country to Southwest Florida, where we call home now, Naples, actually. Love it out here. I got a job straight away as a CEO of a private country club out here. And I set about opening up my new life, if you will. And very quickly started just falling into that old routine where, it's 12:30 at night. I'm still returning emails and kind of things. So,
yeah, I get you. So I got to go back to that one thing that you told me, and everybody can Google this, right? It's not a secret. You're the Sunnylands President Obama,
yep.
And that was when the president of China, Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping. Very yes. Good. There you go. So, tell what you told me before the thing there about what President Obama, how he introduced you.
Well, I don't know that I can say that part of the whole thing.
All right,
okay.
That's fine.
But yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate to be up close and personal with some of these individuals. You know, here you have the two most powerful men in the world, and I was blessed to be there and be part of that experience. They were meeting for the very first time, and they sat down and had a 3-day summit known as the Shirt Sleeve Summit at Sunnylands. And again, it was just a spectacular time in not only the country's history, but also in my own personal history. And there was an amazing team that I worked with that allowed it all to happen. And I look back at it and just say, wow, what an adventure. What an adventure.
That is, well, those are the priceless things, right? So you guys decide to pack up one day and head to Florida, and Naples is absolutely a beautiful town. It's about an hour and 45 minutes, about an hour and a half from where I live, right? I live in a little town called Okeechobee, as you know, and so you moved there, you started kind of a new job, and you're sitting there and you're getting back into the routine because that's all you knew, right? Mm-hmm. You knew that, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to work and do all that, right? I got to go beat it to death.
Yeah, my family was certainly enjoying everything that Naples had to offer. They were just continuing to enjoy it without me because it was the same thing. If there's an opportunity to work, I was putting in the 6-7 days a week, which, the country club world you can do all day long. And then again, you'd get home and I'd spend a little bit of time with the family and I'd jump on the old email, and, everybody understands that situation. Right. And I wasn't kind of strong enough to say no.
Yeah. Well, and so you left that as well, right?
Yep.
Left that as well.
Yep.
And then kind of your journey your next phase of life journey begins, right? So you found NoteSchool, and so tell us the story about what happened there. That's a great piece there.
So when I decided that I was no longer going to do that W-2, I was going to try to find something that I could control my time, and it really was all about time for me. I started looking around and I came across NoteSchool, and I'm probably a savvier than average investor. I've invested in all kinds of different stuff in my life from all different sectors. And I'd never heard this. I'd never heard anything about notes before. So I started digging into it, and I actually became a member of NoteSchool, and I did everything I could to try to prove it to myself. I kind of put on the engineering hat, even though I'm not an engineer, and came up with a hypothesis. And basically my hypothesis at that time was I needed to create enough revenue to not necessarily replace my W-2 income, because that was a pretty hefty income, but to get something, maybe 50, 60% or whatever on a weekly, monthly basis. And I just couldn't see it. I was too new to the arena. I just couldn't see how I was going to do it. So it's a classic example of you don't know what you don't know. And I decided that this isn't going to be right for me at this time. I could certainly see, because it's very clear that wealth building over time, notes are insanely powerful for that. But how am I going to, pay the bills today? And I just didn't see it. I didn't see it. So I decided to step back.
Patrick.
Yeah. So I stepped back, and I at the same time I had, been looking at some other things, and I saw some other opportunities in real estate, maybe doing some wholesaling or fix and flipping and that kind of thing. And so I decided to kind of move over there and focus on that aspect of real estate, which in this market with what's going on, they don't tell you how competitive it is. You certainly don't realize how thin the margins get and how quickly they get thin, which leaves very little room for profit, and it leaves next to no room for errors. If you make a mistake, holy cow. And I did it for, probably about 10 months, and I did some deals. Not enough where I would say this is a business, even though I was treating it like a business. It wound up paying me like a hobby. Along the way, though, I'm getting myself more educated in the whole real estate space. I'd been a hobby landlord in the past, but I'd never done anything that was more transactional, more active.
Right.
And then I was fortunate to come back to NoteSchool in late December of last year with a whole new outlook. My perspective had changed completely because I had spent, 8, 10 months, whatever it was, on the street just trying to grind it out. And the power of notes became even more apparent to me at that point, once I realized what was out there in terms of resources that
Right.
I didn't realize was out there when I first got into it.
Right. Well, sometimes you have to take a path in order to, you have to take a circuitous route, right? You have to kind of make that circle to come back. And, I'm sure this story is resonating with a lot of folks out there. And that's what, when I was telling you the other day, you said, I haven't done a whole lot of deals yet, but you're working on it, right? You're building a business. And I said, it's about the story. It's about that's what people want to hear about, how you got here now and what you had to go through to get here. So you do some wholesale deals, and, we talk about this a lot and we joke about it, so HGTV has gone out there and made all of that wholesale fix and flip look so easy, right? You can find it, you can fix it, you can do everything and make it look beautiful and resell it, and boom, 30 minutes later, you're done and you've made $80,000 or 50 or whatever it is, right? And everybody jumped into that, and we know that you got to buy it for what you've got to buy it for, but there's always somebody out there that's going to keep going up, right?
Yeah,
they'll get up to 85% of value, and that becomes a problem. So
does.
You had been so entrenched into the corporate space. You told me something else that really was kind of interesting. So talk about your self-directed IRA experience, right?
Well, so this goes back to the whole idea that when I was penciling out the numbers, I was looking at my money and what I could do with my money and how much money I could make using my money, right? And I've always known about the big banks, the big financing and stuff like that. But one thing that was completely foreign to me, which I don't want to say I'm embarrassed to say, but it's I'd never even heard of a self-directed IRA. I hadn't. The circles that I've run in on my entire life, and I've done a tremendous amount of investing, that either it didn't come up or when it did, I didn't pay attention to it. So this whole idea that, there's this alternative, there's this group of people out there that like to invest in alternative assets, I didn't even know they existed. So, and at some point in the last year, I've found that out. And then you realize that the money that's in self-directed IRAs, which is just perfect for notes, is insane. There's more money there than you can shake a stick at. It's ridiculous.
And that is so true. But you were a product of your environment, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you hung around with other corporate executives, right? Yep. And you talked about your 401k and you talked about those things. And, so again, like you said a few minutes ago, you don't know what you don't know. So you finally kind of take this route, and then you say notes, and you go, and then you go finish the circle, and then boom, you jump in and you say, okay, I'm back to notes. And this is January of this year. So, and by the way, guys, Patrick was saying, there's a lot of money out there. We know that, well, I just saw some stats, Patrick, that that right now there is more money sitting in dry cash than there's ever been. There's almost $5 trillion sitting in money market accounts, right? There's somewhere between 55 and 75 billion dollars sitting in dry cash that can be written a check for today to buy an asset of whether it's a house or a note or whatever it is, that's just sitting in self-directed IRAs doing nothing because people are they're a little bit afraid, and there's nothing wrong with that. So you get into NoteSchool and you come back into NoteSchool and say, okay, I'm gonna start this process. And so why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead? We'll take a quick break. We'll do a quick commercial. We'll come back and we'll tell the rest of the story about really what you've been doing for the last 5 or 6 months as far as getting back in and starting that process and getting the whole NoteSchool piece going. So we'll stand by. Here's a break with a commercial from our sponsor, NoteSchool.
Well, hello, everyone. It is Brian with the teaching team here at NoteSchool, and I'm excited that I get to be the one to invite you to the upcoming Gold in Notes class. That's right. It is a one-day deeper dive class that we call Gold in Notes because of how valuable this time spent is. This is a full day that we really get to dig into the nitty-gritty, the whole world of creative financing, not just how to acquire more deals, how to get access to more capital, how to defer a lot lot of the taxes for us as well as for the sellers that we're talking to, and really learn how to create your own notes. And really, once you learn how to create your own notes, this is really where we spend an entire afternoon really pulling back the curtain on what the note business is, from wholesaling notes, buying and holding performing notes to really build your wealth. I'll even show you a strategy called partials, which is by far the best wealth building tool I've ever seen in the real estate space. And we're definitely going to spend some time talking about non-performing notes, which is by far the biggest opportunity in today's marketplace, solely because of the events that have happened over the past couple of years. This is when people are not paying their mortgages, and we're going to make a lot of big money from these bad debts, and we're going to help a lot of people get a second chance. It's an absolutely fantastic day. Come spend a day really digging and discover a lot of this stuff so that you too can start building your wealth. It's a day meant to really be engaging. Bring your questions, bring your comments, bring your business problems, and we will see you there.
All right. Well, welcome back. So, Patrick, pretty much everything that Brian just talked about, performing notes, reperforming notes, and non-performing loans, right? Mm-hmm. You've jumped into the fray and you did that. So let's talk first about kind of the performing note thing. So, you know, it's really cool when you're talking to investors about something like this, and you're using your own money right now, right? Mm-hmm. You're saying, I'm going to prove the concept. So talk a little bit about why you like performing notes and kind of the insurance, as you called it, right? That you kind of get into that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about your journey.
Well, okay. So from the performing note standpoint, really any note standpoint, when I started talking to people about it, again, you know, everybody wants to know about it once you start talking about it. I talk about what I call gap insurance. A lot of people understand gap insurance from going to the the dealership, and they're trying to sell you gap insurance, which is, you know, to cover the costs above and beyond and all that kind of stuff. And when you're buying notes at a discount, you've got insurance built into the note, and it's pretty substantial. And the first chunk of insurance that you have is what the note is worth versus what the property is worth. And that insurance, you know, is, let's say it's 30%, for example, you need to lose 30% of the value of that property before your profits are even in question. We're talking about profits. We're not talking about our investment at that point. We're just talking about profits. And then you go down to your investment versus the value of the note. And let's say that's a 10 or 15% below that. That's how much the property needs to go down before your investment starts to be threatened. Right. There's so few things, and there's really nothing that I know of that you can buy with so much insurance built into it. And when you're looking at a real estate market right now that's at its peak, you know, there isn't an investor in the world that says you need to buy high and hope it goes higher, right? I mean, you want to buy low and, you know, sell high. Right. So it makes complete sense from that standpoint that you've got this cushion, and it's essentially insurance that's built into every deal. And they're all different. Obviously, every note is different. But when I'm talking to people that are potential investors down the road, that's kind of the way I explain it. And when you use that mindset, it kind of lines up with the value investor, those investors that are looking for safe, steady returns. They're not big, flashy growth investors or speculative investors. They just want that steady, reliable, and it's going to be secured by the asset. And you have all this insurance that's built into it, which gives a lot of people a peace of mind, even if they don't fully understand right away what you're talking about.
You know, and I'm going to use that, by the way, the whole gap insurance thing. That's probably the best analogy, honestly, that I've ever heard. Yeah. Right.
I just like the fact that we have to lose 30% of the value of this house before your profits are in question, let alone your investment.
And you know, Patrick, if the price of housing were to go down 30%, we'd have a whole lot more problems than our than our investment in notes, right?
Exactly. Oh.
So you've tried you've invested in a reperforming note, and guys, for your knowledge there, it's a note that somebody had gotten in trouble with, right? Maybe during the pandemic, they lost their job and they got 4, 5, or 6 or 10 payments past due, and so it gets modified, and now it was non-performing. It was just something bad happened to a good person. And so, you know, we buy those. So you've done that. And that was just another piece of you know, looking to invest, right? So how did you come up with that piece of the puzzle then?
Again, so that for me was it was kind of a hybrid, right? I looked at it because since it was reperforming, the investment to value was lower because it had a little bit of scratch and ding on it. And I looked at it from the standpoint of, I'm still secured by this property that is worth so much more than what I'm owed. I'll take the risk on this note. And it wasn't, again, since it's reperforming, it's back, they're paying again. So the risk isn't as high as if it's like an NPL. But I just said that the return on investment was too good for me to pass up. The potential return on investment, I should say.
So Patrick, let's get to the third piece there, and that's the NPL that you just said, non-performing notes, non-performing loans.
Yep.
So you talk to people about that the first time, and they kind of look at you like you've got three heads, right? Like, whoa, why am I buying a loan that somebody's not paying on, right? And it's a one-word answer. It's price, right? It's price.
Exactly.
So are you working on a couple? I think you're working on one in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, I'm working. Well, the Hawaii one's, so I'm working on two. I forget about the Hawaii one. Yeah.
So, and again, it's just the fact that, it's the price you're buying it for. And this is a whole lot different than it was back in the last NPL, non-performing loan cycle, where most houses were underwater. The taxes weren't paid. It wasn't insured. You had to foreclose and all of that. So it's really a thing here. So you've also moved into capital raise, right? And so really, I've always said it's just having a conversation. And somebody asks what you do, you give them your 30-minute, your 30-second or 1 minute elevator speech. And I've always gotten that same look, right? And they would go, interesting. So how's that been for you, Patrick?
Well, so that was kind of one of the things that's really, for me, kind of codified, first of all, that there's a ton of money out there. And second of all, that this can actually really be a thing for me. Because as I mentioned, I had my doubts in the beginning, and so much so that I stepped away. But once I started talking about it with people, because these aren't conversations that I was having with my own circle of friends or acquaintances or anything. You're not talking about money and how much money you have in savings and what are you doing with your investments and stuff. It's just not something that comes up. But as soon as you start talking about what you're doing, and if you get your elevator pitch down to 30 seconds and it's very crisp and clear, and it has something to do with them making a lot of money without a lot of risk over time, all of a sudden their ears perk up a little bit, and you realize that, wow, he has a couple $100,000 sitting in cash, and he has $1 million sitting in cash, and people are willing to start having these conversations. And again, you're not asking for money. I'm just talking to people that I'm running into, their friends, family, acquaintances, whatever. And all of a sudden there's people everywhere that have cash that are like, okay, let me know when you're ready. I want to learn more. I want to talk more about how I get involved. I literally had last Friday, I had a conversation with a guy I haven't talked to in 5 years. Good friend of mine. I mean, we're strong acquaintances, but for whatever reason, we kind of, have gone our separate ways. And I was telling him what I'm doing. And he's like, let me know. I gave him a 30-second pitch. He's like, let me know. I got money on the sidelines. I'm ready to go when you're ready. I mean, it's just, I had to validate that for myself. And once you validate it, like, wow, it's just amazing.
Well, and people know they know your background, and a lot of people say, well, gosh, I can't ask my friends or my family or other people. And you don't.
Yeah.
Right. It's just nothing more than a conversation. So Patrick, what have you been up to? And you got your speech down, and you say, and then, or you ask them what they've been up to. And then when they reciprocate and come back to you, there's your in, and that's all you got to say. You're not saying, hey, can you write me a check?
Yeah. I haven't asked anybody. We just talk about it and say, hey, when the time comes, I'll show you some stuff. I think the biggest thing though, Joe, honestly, and for me, it was a little bit of a struggle, is getting your knowledge base to the point where you feel comfortable. Right. And that's because I didn't realize that spending just an hour or two with you guys, I mean, it literally that much time, more than 98% of the people out there, just with that little amount of time. Because people just don't even understand the concept right off the bat. They've never heard of it.
We know that about you because we've seen it so many times over and over, but you don't know that about yourself until you then one day the light bulb clicks and you go, yeah, I get that. So as we wrap up here, we do what we do, and I always say that I think we're more alike than we are different, right? We want to, take care of our family and see our kids grow up to be, have a good childhood and grow up to be, healthy and productive adults, and watching out for our parents and that kind of thing. And so, that's kind of really, at the end of the day, that's the why for a lot of us. I mean, yeah, being able to go out on the golf and play golf and on the golf, right? Talk a little bit about your why as far as what that means to you. And I'll say one more thing before you do that. I had somebody, I grew up hearing, time is money. But as you get a little bit more mature, you realize that time is much more valuable than money. So tell us a little bit about that.
And that's exactly right for me. Absolutely. As I've gotten older and stuff, you realize that it's all about time. And I've always been someone too who tries to give as much as you can. And I've realized that, especially working at Sunnylands, which, believe it or not, is a nonprofit, so it's all about in service of the greater good, that the time, if you can give time, it's far more valuable than giving money to most organizations. They appreciate if it's an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, it's going to be more valuable to them. And if you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, it's hard to come up with that time to give that time to a cause that you believe in. So that's one of my goals. I mean, is to be able to donate a specific amount of time versus just money. That's what I'm working towards.
Well, that and hanging out with those kiddos, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that goes without saying.
That's for sure, right? So,
yep.
Patrick, you're an amazing guy. I know you've got I haven't met your family, but I know you've got an amazing family, and we just appreciate you sharing today your experience, right? And that's what really matters to most people. I mean, we think that, well, we see this guy, and he's been successful doing this, but as a corporate executive, and now he's gotten into this, and he's a lot smarter than I am, and he's got all this, and that's not what it's all about. It's just about getting out there and trying to get after it, right?
Yeah, I mean that's really what it comes down to, is you got to take that step. And I doubt I ever would have taken that step without NoteSchool and all of the partners and stuff that you guys bring to the table. It's made it so much more reassuring. It's like, jumping into the deep end with a lifeguard standing next to the pool, really.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess the big thing that I've got this right here, and this says,
suspend your disbelief, right?
Yep.
And he kind of gets it right. He has it dispel, but it suspends your disbelief, right? And I'll have to give credit to that. I heard Frank Kern, who is he's probably one of the biggest, most successful internet marketers, and that's what he said. He says, he says it in some very colorful words when I first heard him say it, but he suspend your disbelief for just a little bit. Just a little bit. That's all you got to do. And let's know what's and figure out what's possible. Patrick, again, thank you so much. It's been great having you. And are you going out to the office visit this next week? I am not. I had some previous commitments actually with the kids. Gotcha. But, good. I'll see you in the summer. Summer Summit. All right. There you go. So Patrick, thanks so much. And for folks, thanks for being with us every week here on NoteSchool TV. We enjoy bringing this, amazing guests and just hearing their stories, right? I think that's the most important thing that we can do, is we hear what others are doing, and then we can then make it ours. We can identify with those stories. So guys, next week we've got the monthly update, so you certainly will not want to miss that. And again, I'll let you know that, here's what we say every week at this time. We'll see you on the other side.